Today I'm going to be building this new ramp for my shed, but let's rewind and I'll show you exactly how I did it. Ladies. Like you, I have a to-do list the length of my arm hanging on my refrigerator door that bounces around in my head on a regular basis. And I'm guessing also like you, I have a tendency to completely ignore it and hope that it magically disappears on its own.
Hi Mom! Look at me! I'm so strong!
So the first thing I was going to have to do was measure out my spot to make sure I had the right height for this ramp. That's exactly the problem I ran into last time I built this ramp. I built it a little too tall, and when the ground heaved, the doors began to rub on the ramp, ruining the doors. So I measured it out, and I was able to get a little helper to give me a hand shoveling out these holes. Then I'm going to be putting some blocks in to make sure that I can get everything nice and level and keep all this pressure treated wood from being placed directly on the ground. I'm going to be using a lot of the existing wood from the last ramp, so I removed the nails and then smashed my finger directly into the table saw blade. I'm an idiot. There's a workbench right there in the background. I should be doing this on there, not messing around on my table saw. Once I went and got a band-aid for my finger, I ran this through the table saw, cutting off about 3/4 of an inch on the bottom to give me the clearance that I need for this new ramp. That tool right there is one of my favorite new tools that I got recently. There's actually a review for it down below if you want to go check that out. But basically all I say in the review is this tool rules. It's this little gun that you hook up to your air compressor and it can shoot nails back out of reclaimed wood. And I use more reclaimed wood than I do store-bought wood, so it's the perfect tool for me. This is where the battery in my camera died, but I was cutting this big 2x material down into 2x4s so that I could fit it right into this piece that I'm cutting out, as you can see right there, using my table saw sled and making multiple passes until I have a nice cleared out spot. I've repeated this on all of the stretchers, and then I could slide this 2x4 material right into that spot and screw it in. I put one screw in the right hand side, as you can see right there. Then I used another piece of wood that I knew was the exact same length to make sure that everything was nice and square. I'm not going to be screwing that in, I'm just using it just to make sure everything's separated the same amount at the top and the bottom. But then I went ahead and screwed these two boards in, and I flipped it up and over. Once I had it flipped up and over, I could attach this piece to the back end to help keep everything nice and straight. And also I'm going to be using that piece to screw this directly to the shed. Now I went back into my workshop and I took this old piece of decking that was also reclaimed from a friend of mine. I cranked my table saw blade all the way up to the highest height, and then I tilted it over, and then I could run that board through the table saw blade with the fence pushed almost all the way up to the blade itself, cutting a nice long angle. It's so tight. I don't want it to be like that. That was the whole problem with the last one. I'm going to go cut a little bit more off this, and I'll be right back. Okay, I did it thinner. Is it thin enough is the question. Once I had a board that I knew was going to fit, I could sand off the bottom of the doors just a tiny little bit with my angle grinder and a 60 grit sanding pad. This just gave me enough clearance that it wasn't hitting in any spots. And after that, it was just a matter of screwing this all together. I used decking screws because when I was taking this last one apart, I had used drywall screws years ago when I made it, and they were all breaking and rotten and disgusting, so decking screws is the way to go. I cut all my boards to length with my miter saw. This is more of that decking that I was able to get from my buddy Matt. Then I went out, screwed it all down. Instead of sanding it before I put it down, I just grabbed that angle grinder again with the 60 grit sanding pad and just sanded the whole thing afterwards. It looks like a brand new deck. It's perfect. I'm so happy with it. Now, because that shed is still a mess and it's actually really early spring here, I didn't have my wheelbarrow or anything out, but we still had a sled out from winter, so I decided to fill that up with dirt and drag it across with my little man right there, and we filled in the gap in the front. There may be a little bit of nepotism to this, but I believe I would work with him any day of the week. Because after 3 years of putting this job off, it was actually him that suggested we rebuild it when we came out here this morning. This ended up being a really fun project, and I got to do it with that little man right there, and that's what made it fun. I guess my point is, stop avoiding your list, get out there, do it, and figure out a way to make it fun for yourself. We'll see you in the next one. Later.
Bye, see you again, and have a good dream.